Recording in progress.
Today the arguments for an Islamic science by Ziauddin Sadar. So Ziauddin Sadar's arguments for an Islamic science presents a provocative and systematic case for developing contemporary Islamic approach to scientific inquiry. Originally published in 1989, this work challenges the wisdom that science is universal and value neutral. Yes, this one easily examines the historical, philosophical, and practical dimensions of science in Muslim civilization, contrasting it with Western scientific tradition and their underlying worldviews. So this was originally published in 1989, and science is shaped by civilization, not value neutral. That's the main argument and revives Islamic science rooted in Islamic values, history, and worldview. The first argument that Ziauddin Sada is putting forward is science differs across cultures. For example, for the Chinese, he demonstrates that the Chinese worldview is based on the Confucian concepts of humanity, Tao harmony, and yin yang cosmic principles emphasize interconnectedness, synthesis, and the unity of man and nature. This produced a science characterized by organic thinking, dialectical logic, and theories like the five elements and two fundamental forces. On the other hand, for the Greek rational reduces logic-based, it is linear logic, while it produced systematic mathematics and deductive reasoning. It compartmentalized knowledge and largely separated scientific inquiry from other spheres of human existence. Sada argues that if civilizations differ in worldview, culture, values, and social organization, their science must also differ. The conventional assumption that science is universal and identical across culture is therefore logically inconsistent. Our next argument is Islamic science unique identity. The classical Islamic science, knowledge, ilm is pursued through multiple valid pathways, revelation, reason, observation, intuition, tradition is always oriented by ethical and spiritual values derived from the Quran. The concept of knowledge incorporated diverse forms of knowing, from observation, metaphysics, from revelation to reason. All forms of knowledge were considered equally valid but subordinate to Quranic values. In contrast with Western knowledge, Western science faith is in the rationality, science for science sake, all-powerful method, emotional neutrality, individualism, reductionism, and value neutralism. Value integration, knowledge was classified as praiseworthy or blameworthy based on its contribution to human welfare and alignment with Islamic values. This is an anti-intellectual dogmatism, but a sophisticated understanding that not all knowledge necessarily leads to virtue or social benefit. Sada illustrates these principles through detailed analysis of major Islamic scientists like Al-Biruni, Ibn Sina, and Ibn al-Haytham, showing how they integrated multiple methodologies while maintaining commitment to truth, haqq, within an ethical framework. Third argument is Western science versus inherently destructive. Destructive nature of Western science. Sada argues that the science transition from Islamic to Western civilization during the Middle Ages, it was fundamentally transformed by Christian ethos and Protestant work into an ideology of domination and control. So the instrumental rationality is that science became focusedly exclusive on technology, technique and efficiency in achieving objectives, treating both human and non-human objects as mere material to be manipulated and exploited. The reductionism, the dominant approach, reduces complex phenomena to isolated components, creating what Munawar Ahmad calls a picture of life without attributes of life. And the myth of pure objectivity creates an illusion of progress while justifying authoritarianism and oppression. Authoritarianism and idealism. Ideology science becomes an ally of political economic dominance. Unintended consequences, modern science often produces ecological catastrophes, ethical and dilemmas. Sada argues that these pathologies are not accidental but reflection of the worldview and internal logic of Western science. The destructive potential is not accidental but flows from the fundamental assumption and methods of Western scientific ideology. The next argument is the Western science and Muslim needs. The fourth argument, this says that the Western science, when practically successful, is fundamentally ill suited to the physical, social, cultural, and spiritual realities of Muslim societies. It undermines local culture and values. It creates stack dependency and technology dependence. Instead of fostering self-sustaining scientific cultures, the adoption of Western science creates dependency, perpetuates perpetual status of Muslim societies, and this is ineffectiveness of Western approaches to agriculture and medicine in Muslim countries. So the vision for contemporary science. The vision for contemporary science here is we should be seeing Islamic science as objectively enterprise designed to pursue objective solutions, but always governed by metrics of Islamic values. Both the means and end of science for Sada must conform to ethical constraint. Sada concludes by outlining his vision for contemporary Islamic science as subjective, objective enterprise that seeks objective solutions to normative goals within the framework of Islamic values. It should be holistic rather than deductive, synthetic rather than fragmentary, value-oriented rather than claiming neutrality, community-focused rather than individualistic, methodologic pluralistic rather than monolithic, ethically constrained in both ends and means. Next is the critical assessment. The strengths. Strengths is a historical scholarship, epistemological sophistication, contemporary relevance, cultural authenticity. So the call for culturally rooted approaches to knowledge production addresses legitimate concerns about intellectual dependency in post-colonial societies. And when we look at the potential limitations, it's essential tendencies. The argument sometimes treats civilizations as overly homogeneous, essential tendencies. As for the risk of essentially both Western and Islamic science, essentializing both Western Islamic science, actual scientific practices and institutions are often more mixed and porous. The practical challenge of reconstructing an Islamic science that can respond to both modern, scientific, and traditional values, lots of which scientific universals. Some aspects of scientific method and natural phenomena might indeed be universal, regardless of cultural context. Last but not least, I conclude that arguments for Islamic science remain significant and proactive contribution to discussion about science, culture, and civilization identity. It offers a well-structured, historically informed, and passionate case for the necessity of developing a science anchored in Islamic worldview and values. This criticization gaps in the university and neutrality of Western science, urges self-reflection among Muslim society, and outlines the contours of a value-oriented science tradition. This is an essential reading for anyone interested in the intersection of science, culture, and religion, and in the broader project of reimagining knowledge in the post-colonial world. Thank you.